15, 2019 will now come to order. First will be our public hearing, which we have 2 items on. First item is Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance number 19-40. That's an ordinance to authorize the parish president or his authorized designee to execute any and all documents in regards to the purchase and acquisition of property through FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. Anybody wish to address that item? If not, then the second item is Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance number 19-42. That's an ordinance denying the extension of a variance to any additional phases of filings beyond phase 1 related to Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance number 0992 and documentation adopted in January 11, 2010. Anybody wish to address that item? If not, we will go into our regular meeting. The invocation will be by Pastor Jeff McNeely, and the pledge of allegiance will be by Councilman Trent Forrest.
Father, once again, we pause to give you thanks, Father, for the way that you just abundantly bless us. Father, we thank you for the privilege we have to gather here, and Lord, we thank you for the elected officials that you have given us to make decisions over this parish. We ask, Lord, that you bless them with health, bless them with wealth, bless them, Father, with wisdom as they lead us. And Father, we ask your hand of protection upon all those who protect us, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag. For all veterans and active military, please render the proper salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, I was out late, I'm sorry. I'd like to bring up, to keep George Pelche in your prayers. Mr. Pelche had a terrible fall Sunday in Ponchatoula off one of the fire trucks. And he's in the hospital right now. And if we can all keep him in our prayers, that hopefully everything turns out to be good for him.
And then also I would like to add our Councilman Bailey. He's in the rehab hospital, and hopefully he'll be discharged on Friday. So thank you for the prayers that you gave, and we ask that you please continue. All right.
I did visit Mr. Bailey, and he looks like he's, considering he's doing well.
Well, good. Thank you. Next will be a roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest. Here. Mr. Bailey. Mr. Joseph. Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Richel. Mr. Mayu. Yes. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Here.
Mr. Levine. Mr. Cortez.
Here.
All right. Thank you. Next, cell phones or any other electronic devices. If you have them, we ask that you will please turn them off or mute them. Thank you. The next is the adoption of the minutes for the regular meeting September 23rd, 2019.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Cortez.
Second.
And a second by Councilman Vial. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Richel. Yes. Mr. Mayu.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried. Next, public input. Anybody wish to address any of the items that were not on the public hearing? All right, next with our parish president report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We only have one item tonight, and it is to ask for authorization for us to go out for a proposal for fiscal agent for Tangipahoa Parish government from 2020 through 2023. We do it every year at this time. Matches up the terms of the office, so we need to do that before the year's out.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Councilman Joseph.
Second.
A second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Richel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayu.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried.
I don't have anything further. Do y'all have any questions for me? Great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next is item number 2. That's the adoption of Tangipahoa Ordinance number 1940. That's an ordinance to authorize the parish president or his designee to execute any and all documents in regard to the purchase and acquisition of property through the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program.
I also move, I think there are 4 properties on that list.
Yeah.
A second.
We have a motion by Councilman
VL.
VL, and a second by Councilman, Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchell? Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. VL?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 3, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1942. That's an ordinance denying the extension of the variance to any additional phases of filings beyond Phase 1 related to the Tangipahoa Parish Order number 0992 and documentation adopted on January 11, 2010. That's in Mr. VL District. You have anything you want to say, sir?
So move.
We have a motion by Councilman VL. Second. Second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchell? Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. VL?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez? Mr. Forrest?
All right, that motion is carried. Next will be item number 4, introduction of Tangipahoa ordinance number 1943. That's an ordinance to amend and recreate the prospective precincts by merger in accordance with LRS 18-5321.1 and otherwise to provide with respect thereof.
How many are we looking at, or where are they at?
There's 4 of them.
There were 4.
And they'll be voting in the same, the precincts are merged, but they'll still be voting in the same place.
Yeah, and I didn't find the
It's
name
less-
place.
Less than 300 voters. And they'll be voting in the same space. I read it earlier.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
So, nobody will have to change a voting place, I guess
That's
what I
right.
said.
Yes. I don't have one.
I got it.
We have a motion by Mr. Joseph,
Second here.
a second by Mr. VL. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchell?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. VL?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez? Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 5, introduction of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1944. That's an order adopting and operating and capital outlay budget for the parish for fiscal year 2020. So moved. Have a motion by Councilman Cortez,
I'll second.
a second by Councilman VL.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ritchell? Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. VL?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez? Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 6, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Resolution number R19-23. That's a resolution authorizing the filing of an application with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development for a grant under any of the following FTA programs managed through Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Councilman Forrest,
Second.
second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. VL?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez? Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchell?
All right, motion is carried. Next is item number 7, adoption of Tangipahoa Parish Resolution number 1924, a resolution authorizing the parish of Tangipahoa, state of Louisiana, to proceed with the issuance of not to exceed $7 million of revenue bonds and refinancing bonds in one or more series, providing certain terms of said bonds, authorize the execution of certain document by the Garbage District Number 1 of the parish of Tangipahoa, Louisiana, make an application to the State Bonding Commission for approval of said bonds, appointing the bond counsel, independent registered municipal advisor and underwriter, and placement agent, and providing for all other matters in connection therewith.
Is Jim still here?
Yes.
Jim,
Yeah, I have a question too.
I'd like to get a couple of things, just get them in the record if we could. We're gonna go through with the refinancing.
If you want
What's
to.
out, what's out there.
And that's dependent upon when we get 2.5 months from now, when we get to a place where we can go to the market, if the rates work. You may recall a couple of years ago, we were gonna refinance this, and we went through the process. By the time we did it all, the rates had gone up enough to where that when we looked at it, it just didn't make sense to do it. We decided not enough
So
savings.
you're gonna be monitoring that.
Absolutely.
But, as far as the borrowing of the $4 million, that's gonna be on hold, is that correct?
Yeah, it's just,
My
it's make an application to the State Bond Commission. It gives you all the authority to do it. If down the road you decide you want to borrow the money to cap that last sale and do it.
Okay. So all we're gonna do is get permission to borrow it. But
Like a
the
loan
council,
application.
the council and administration would have to come back and decide?
Absolutely. So the way it would work, and the way it always works, is we'd come back, we'd introduce an ordinance, then we'd come back and adopt an ordinance, and even after that, we come back to y'all with the final rates and payments and say, here's the refinancing, this is how much you can save, here's what the new money would cost. And at that point in time, you can say no to both of them. You can say yes to the refinancing, no to the new money. And if 6 months from now, you decide you want to borrow the money to cap the landfill, the authority's there, you go do it.
Okay.
All right.
So we're only starting the process. And the last meeting we had though, and I know we've had, everybody's been busy, I asked for some information. I'm sure we can get that. I'm looking at Jeff back there, of everything that we were gonna spend this money on to be, so that all the council can look at, start digging into what's it about and that kind of stuff.
Yes,
okay?
sir. This process is to just get everything calendared
Right.
with the bond commission in the event that we want to do it. Remember, the administration nor the council
Right.
can borrow any money without an ordinance
Right.
and without each other. So this is just a checkbox in the event that it's better for us to do that down the road, whether it be 6 months from 2 months from now or a year from now.
And I want to stress that even after the ordinance, without the chairman or Christian's signature and your signature, so without the coordination of both bodies, the executive and the legislative branch, even after the bond commission approval, even after the ordinance is done, everything, until either the chairman or the council clerk and the parish president sign a whole bunch of papers, which you all remember like when we did the Go Mesa bonds.
We remember.
Even at that point in time, unless everyone agrees, there's nothing you can, there's nobody, we can't do anything, so.
And Jeff, you will give us that information on the original list of items, just so we can start looking at it, okay? Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Just for my clarification, because I know the bond commission is going to ask, the basic idea, if you did, would be basically to cap an existing cell at the landfill, put in a methane collection system, and put the cover on it, put sod and grass, so you don't have to keep dumping dirt on it every year and getting EPA out there saying you got trash coming out of your landfill. Okay.
All right. All right. What's the pleasure of council? So moved. A motion by Councilman Cortez.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Richardson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez? Yes. Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yeah.
Mr. Ritchell?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thanks y'all again, and go Tigers.
What do you think?
Jim, are you
Mr.
ill?
Joseph, did you hear that?
Are you ill? Okay, I was just,
That's right. That's why I thought you were gonna get it.
You saw the Alabama game this weekend, you know I'm tired now.
All right, next is item number 8. Item number 8 is set the hours for trick or treat in unincorporated areas of the parish. Last year we set them at 5 to 8. 31st is on a Thursday.
Awesome.
All right, motion by Councilman Richardson.
And I'll second.
And a second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr.
Y'all don't
Forrest?
know the history of this.
Yeah, we got a
Rich-
story, we got a story behind it.
I know. That's why we let him make that motion.
I mean, 1 year he changed it, and that
Changed
was
it-
it,
changed it to
never again.
Christmas.
Do that for me. Roll call.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Mr. Ritchell? Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
All right, we have one item that we need to add. That's dealing with the Go Mesa funds. And I'll go ahead and read the resolution before we add it. It's a resolution in support of the Senate Bill 2418 and House Bill 3414 to increase the Go Mesa revenue sharing for the Gulf Coast states. And it's resolution number R19-25. I need to bring that up on unanimous, please.
Also move.
We have a motion by Councilman Vial. Second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph? Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchell?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Yes. Do I hear a motion?
Also move.
We have a motion by Councilman Vial. Second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Mr. Ritchell? Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
All right, the motion is carried.
I have,
Next.
I have one question. Do we
Yes.
know if this is getting any traction?
yes, sir. Well, Mr. Vial, we had a meeting, CPRA, Coastal Protection and Restoration.
Yeah.
Asked all the coastal parishes that participate and get money from Go Mesa to come together. We met a week and a half ago. That this was one of the things they asked for from us. Next Wednesday, we will be in DC with meetings with as many of the delegation from the coastal states to push for this, because currently there are bills, competing bills, to take money away from Go Mesa to send it to Midwest states for national park maintenance, and like $2 billion worth of this money. So these resolutions, or these laws, bills that are being put up that we're in support of, actually raise the cap, raise the percentage of share to the coastal states, and raise the cap so more money would come. We just started getting the money.
Right.
In our third year that we should get a check. Our money has creeped up a little bit. It's roughly $700,000. It has to be used for coastal type work, and that's what we bonded the money for, so we can finish the rock jetty. This process it's imminent that they're reviewing these and the bills for to divert the money, and we'll say divert because that's what it is to us, are competing bills in Congress right now. So again, we're going next Wednesday to push this with about probably 30 people from Louisiana, some Texas folks, some Alabama folks, and Mississippi.
Thank you. Thank you.
We did the vote. All right. Next is item number 9, coming from Mr. Joseph. Keep Tangipahoa Beautiful report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I attended the Keep Louisiana Beautiful, and Tangipahoa Parish is an affiliate of the state organization. Also present was our parish president, Robert Miller, was there. Sal was there, Ginger, and code enforcement. So we had a good contingent. We saw a lot, we learned a lot, and a lot of those things that we saw we're going to implement, and visit other parishes as well to see how they're doing things. While there, Ginger received an Excellence Award for the work that she's done, and the parish also, for the work that we've done, received a $500 check to keep Louisiana beautiful, for us to keep doing what we're doing as far as cleaning. Robert gave an outstanding speech, and so did Ginger. And I just would like Virginia to come up and expound on what we did over there and what happened and where we're going to go from here. And Ginger, if you don't mind, let the council know what you're doing into the schools.
Thank you.
Okay, we did go, went to the conference, like Mr. Joseph said, and it was a great conference, I thought. We learned a lot, but some of the parishes have contacted me since we've been back, wanting to know how we got started in the schools of teaching anti-littering. So, I've given them a little bit of information. I just told them they just have to keep knocking on doors. But I want to tell y'all, it's really starting to work. It really is. I'm starting to see some differences in the schools when I go. There's schools calling the parish now wanting the 10-week course. Just to give you a little bit of what's going on this semester, which will finish up in November. Last year at this time, the parish had 6 classes throughout the parish. This year, I have 15 classes, and that starts on Monday morning at Kentwood and goes all the way to Hammond East Side. So I'm in schools every day. With that, by Friday afternoon, I have talked to over 350 students. The next semester, we have 4 schools so far that's committed, and that is a total of 16 classes. So it's definitely starting to catch on and work. Very good.
Very good.
So, the teachers are really, they're starting to call the parish. We're not having to get out there and knock on doors and beg and plead and that kind of stuff. So they'll be visiting the landfill here shortly. Then we'll start another 10 weeks up in January. So do y'all have any questions?
No, and then now the kids will be telling the parents, don't litter.
That's exactly what's going on because and I see for kids in
Kind of like the seatbelt.
I know.
deal.
I see students in Walmart or whatever, and the parents will go, well, we know your name. And I go, what is it? And they go, the trash lady. I will, okay, well, whatever works. Then I had a mom call me and said, okay, we like you, but we don't really like you right now. I went to throw a piece of gum out, and my child had a fit.
Good.
And made me roll the window up. And
That's good.
pick it out. But we're in I'm in Kentwood, OBW Dillon, Trafton, Matadella Rosa, Courtney Christian School, Hammond East Side. So in the next semester, I finally got into Laranja. But that's 6 classes.
Ginger, I just want to tell you, you're doing a great job. I remember
Thank
when all
you.
this first started and we were trying to get this ball rolling a number of years ago. And I mean, you really taken ownership of this thing, and
I want to thank y'all and of course the parish president, because without y'all, we couldn't make this.
I have to give him some credit too?
Yeah, you got to give him some credit. But I really do think it's working.
It is.
We still have a lot of litter out there, but I do think it's working. Yes, sir?
Trash lady.
Yes. I know you love to call me that name.
Now that the first primary election's over,
Can we get rid of all these signs?
I would like us to at least call the candidates that are either finished or have lost and have them to start cleaning up.
They lost their
And I want to get with you because before the next election, we're going to tighten up this policy.
Okay.
Because, you know, the purpose of these signs were never to be put in public right-of-ways.
Okay.
They were not to be put in ditches or by stop signs or anything like that. Yard signs, that's why they call them yard signs. They're supposed to be in yards. But it's too late for this election. I think this was probably the worst I've ever seen. So we have an ordinance. I think we were pretty lenient this time with people putting them in ditches and all of that. But I would like to see us get a list of the candidates who have either finished or lost, and have them send a registered letter that they have so many days to get these signs picked up. Because I don't think it's the responsibility of this parish to be spending taxpayers' money to pick up these signs, especially if they paid people to put them out. So the litter, we're doing everything we can to pick up litter, and here we're going back 3 and 4 times to pick up the same signs in the same location. And it's not only campaign signs, it's snipe signs, it's everything you can imagine. So, you know, I think it's time for us to look at that ordinance and strengthen it before the next election.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll be glad to get with you and
Okay.
try
That's
to
great.
get something drawn up.
That's perfect. All right. So is that it?
I'd like to close with 2 things, Mr. Chairman. We're not where we want to be as far as trash is concerned with litter. But I think we are miles ahead of where we were before the administration started. And secondly, Robert gave, I call him Mr. President, he gave a rousing speech. So when it came to his seat, I changed his name to Reverend.
Yeah, he was pretty, yeah, it was real good. So, okay, but and y'all know if you need anything, just call me and I'll be glad to try to help you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I will remember that the next time I call for the parish president.
You're gonna call him Rev, huh?
Yeah. All right. Next, we have beer, wine, and liquor permits. We have one, GB Crossroad LLC, which is located at 16549 Highway 38 in Kentwood.
That's in my district. It's new ownership, the same stores there, so I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Quarles.
Second here.
Second by Councilman Bruno. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson? Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Thank you. The motion is carried. Next, legal matters.
I have nothing.
Next, Councilman privileges.
I have one.
Okay, Mr. Bruno.
I know I'm gonna be a bad guy for this, but I gotta do it. Last weekend, we had the MS bike ride. Came through the parish. I had an older lady that called me. We have an ordinance in place for these bike rides. There's supposed to be a route posted in the paper. There is a distance between the bikes to allow for cars to pass. For some reason or another, all of these bike riders, there were Mandeville and Madisonville policemen on motorcycles. The lady was coming down Highway 40. There was a gap between them. She went around slowly and got back in. When they got up to the top of the hill and the traffic stopped, one of the bike riders starts punching her car and telling her that there's a bike ride going on and she just needs to follow. She pulls up to the next policeman who has stopped on a motorbike. She tells him what happens, and he says, the best thing you can do is go home. This is a benefit bike ride. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they can go to Mandeville or Madisonville and ride in the traffic over there. If they're not going to follow the ordinance, and I don't think it was posted in the paper, because you're supposed to get a copy when it does. So whoever we need to contact, if they're not going to follow the ordinance, and they surely are not going to do that to our residents, they're a visitor in our parish and they need to act as a visitor. And certainly the police need to take that into consideration, because it could have been somebody with a gun who wouldn't have took it as easy and pulled the gun out and shot somebody. So these bike rides need to be notified that there is an ordinance in place and they need to follow the ordinance.
Do they have to get a permit?
They have to. They do not have to get a permit.
But that would initiate, or to let the parish know what's going on to initiate.
But see what they're supposed to do in the ordinance, they're supposed to go post the route in the Daily Star.
But if you don't get a permit, how do they know all that, is what I'm saying? If they
Well,
go to get a permit, then you give them a copy of the ordinance.
Yeah, well,
Make them get a permit.
that'll be fine.
Might
But
be something we need to work
we
on.
may need to look at it and
Yeah.
revise it, but they've been doing this for years and they always did it. I don't know why now they don't know to do it.
Yeah.
But it's turning into a dangerous situation. I didn't see any local police, but I did see Madisonville and Mandeville policemen on motorbike. So I don't know what the deal was behind it, but I would like to get it addressed before it escalates into something even more.
And then also probably a good idea, we get our own sheriff department
Yeah.
involved. All right, any other councilman privilege? Mr. Joseph?
I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all those that voted for me in the last election, and
You want again?
yeah. And I want people to know that I'm going to do my best to improve the quality of life for those that voted for me and those that didn't vote for me. I will work for everybody. Thank you.
I'll ditto that.
Ah, well, thank you guys for doing it in that manner. Anything else? Any other councilman privileges? We had a motion by Councilman Rizzo that we adjourn. Anybody opposed?
No.
Meeting is adjourned.
All right.
That's what he got there.
Or somebody else.